There is a name missing from our history books, an empire so vast, so visionary, and so terrifying it didn't fall. It vanished itself deliberately, as if its rulers feared not defeat but what would happen if the world remembered them. This is the story of a forgotten civilization that once rivaled Rome but chose silence over glory, power over permanence, and in doing so, rewrote human history without a trace. Welcome to the mystery of the Ashanti Obscura, in the dense gold-drenched jungles of West Africa. Long before European ships arrived with guns and greed, there stood a kingdom whose name echoed like thunder, Ashanti. But what most don't know is that the Ashanti Empire was not the first. Beneath it, buried in oral traditions, hidden by deliberate misdirection, was a proto-empire, one without written records, one whose capital city has never been found, one known only in fragments whispered by griots, feared by colonial scribes. Its real name is lost, but some call it the Obscura, the hidden crown. This empire didn't rise. It hid, not from enemies, but from the future. In 1824, British officers exploring inland Ghana found something perplexing. Gold, not just nuggets, but crafted medallions, etched with symbols they couldn't translate. Symbols predating the Ashanti by centuries. They weren't Ashanti, they weren't Islamic, they weren't European. They were something else. Artifacts were sent to London, some disappeared. Others were dismissed as tribal curiosities. But one man, Lieutenant Henry Rycroft, noted in his journal, "These tokens suggest an ancient order far more centralized and esoteric than any we've encountered in Africa. It is as though their makers feared being remembered." Rycroft died of sudden fever 3 weeks later. His notes: sealed, lost to time. The Obscura didn't just fall. According to rarer oral histories, it chose to vanish. The legend says, when the fire god walked among men, the rulers of the hidden throne struck a pact. Their name would not outlive their wisdom. They burned their archives, dismantled their temples stone by stone, exiled their scribes, and forbade the speaking of their tongue. All that remained were myths. Why? Because they believed the world wasn't ready for their knowledge. And if that knowledge survived, it would be weaponized, not understood. They didn't trust humanity with truth, so they buried it with ritual precision. In remote parts of modern-day Ghana and Ivory Coast, female griots called an Ansemfo still tell stories forbidden by colonizers and even local rulers. They speak of a queen philosopher named Nyamiwa, who ruled not with armies but with dreams. She's said to have devised a living mapogeometric code that changed depending on who viewed it, a kind of proto-augmented reality using sacred geometry, sound, and memory. British anthropologist Elsie Beckwith in 1907 recorded one story that ended with, "And so she erased the throne from time, so that one day, when truth returns, we may build it rightly." Elsie's recordings were confiscated by the colonial administration. She was reassigned to India, never heard from again. In 2018, drone LiDAR scans over the Pra River basin revealed something startling: massive geometric land alterations, terraces, sunken squares, and linear causeways overgrown but unmistakably man-made. They resemble neither Roman roads nor African tribal settlements, but they align with celestial bodies especially Sirius, Orion, and the Pleiades. Similar alignments are found in Egypt, Mesoamerica. And Angkor Wat? How? Mainstream historians say coincidence, but others whisper of a pre-global connection, a civilization that didn't need ships to reach the stars, because it traveled through story, symbol, and sacred science. Was the Obscura part of something greater? The Obscura's most radical idea was this: a name is a cage. They believed naming a thing stripped it of its living spirit. So they built an entire empire around anonymity, structures without carvings, laws passed by consensus and preserved only in dream rituals. Children weren't told history, they became it through dramatized rites of passage. Imagine a civilization whose greatest monument was its absence, What if they understood something we've forgotten? That legacy is not what you leave behind, but what you teach others to live without needing to remember. Modern Ashanti kings have at times hinted at a shadow kingdom. One royal interviewed anonymously in 1992 said, "The reason the golden stool sits on no soil is not just respect. It is memory. Memory must hover, lest it become a weapon." This cryptic statement was largely ignored. But it matches with oral accounts that say the Ashanti golden stool, the symbol of their soul, was not original. It was a continuation, a final echo of a hidden kingdom's throne, the Obscura's throne. And what of the British? The colonial obsession with controlling gold, language, and knowledge meant they deliberately erased anything that hinted at an older power. They weren't just conquering land. They were burying dangerous truths. What kind of empire chooses silence? Chooses invisibility? Chooses to die. To protect something sacred. What if the greatest wisdom isn't in what we build, but in what we're willing to destroy to save what matters most? The Obscura may never be fully proven. Its name may never return. But maybe that's the point. Maybe it was never about being remembered, but about remembering why they left. This was the empire that erased itself, not because it was weak, but because it was too strong to let us remember it too soon. If this story moved you, if it opened a doorway you didn't know was there, subscribe to Thronewake. The past isn't behind us, it's just beneath the silence.